Okay, well, welcome everybody. This is Joanne Mystico, Shaklee Master Coordinator, and I'm very excited and happy today to do another Tips from the Top of very influential and successful Shaklee Master Coordinators. My guest tonight or today is Don Simecka. He's a Senior Master Coordinator. He's a multi-million-dollar producer in the Shaklee business and has for a number of years. And I've asked him to just sit here with me and Lauren, who's my assistant and Shaklee builder in our group, to just meet together to say, you know, Don, first off, let's tell us where you're from right now and maybe a little bit about what your former background was.
Okay, I'm coming to you today from South Carolina, from what we call the Low Country, which is basically the Hilton Head area. Soon to be moving a couple hours away, but we moved to South Carolina just almost 5 years ago from Colorado. Colorado was home base for our Shaklee business for a number of years from the time we really started it. My background, I actually was a biology major, taught science 1 year, then was recruited away from the teaching industry and went into college admissions work. And I was assistant director of admissions for 2 colleges and 1 university, University of Denver. What that really meant when I was single was that I traveled a whole lot. I visited students in 35 states in the country, and I loved it. I met a lot of young men and women and future leaders of the country, and it was great to interface with the young people. But I knew long term that wasn't my career. I moved from that into international education for a couple of years, and that took me to Southern California, and that is where Patricia and I were married. And she was a teacher and a native of Colorado. So after 2 years of that, we moved back to Colorado. And she started our Shaklee business, like most Shaklee businesses, on a random note somewhat. We weren't looking for a business, but one of the contacts I had in international education was quitting his quite well-paid position as a PhD and joining his wife in Shaklee. And that impressed me. We took a look, we moved the next day, and getting to Colorado, Pat couldn't get a teaching job. So she started tinkering with this little Shaklee operation. And 3 years later, after I went into a new career, 3 years later, she had it humming, and there was more activity in our basement than any place I was. And so I joined her. And so we actually, and this probably shouldn't go on record because this isn't an endorsement, but we went full time in this business at the director level. We did not have a director under us. And so that is a thumbnail sketch of how we got here.
So why did you decide then to go into Shaklee? Because that is a big jump at the director level. I kind of did this. I actually had two other jobs plus Shaklee when I started, and until my income got to be up to the level, then I quit one job and then did just Shaklee and the other job. But you just jumped right in. Can you tell me why? Or
great question. I think the short answer would be, I think we had vision. I think we had vision of what it could be. And we literally, and I guess intentionally, took the word if out of our language. And we said when and how much. We knew what we had to do on a monthly basis to pay the bills. And we knew that it would only get better from that point if we kept a steady, consistent level of execution. And that's what happened. And it grew and it grew and it grew. And we just never looked back.
Well, what would you say are the principal activities or things that you did? I'm sure there was a big fire put under you at that point because you either had to make it work or, you'd have to go get a real job, which I know I didn't want. But what would you say really launched you?
Exactly. Kind of simplistically, it was continuing to do the things that got us there. And those things were, as a tribute to my wife's effort, uh, making calls, following up, making new contacts, doing events, uh, paying attention to the core values of Shaklee, and not forgetting why in the world we were doing this. We weren't doing this just to make money. We saw Shaklee as a really special venture into something that most companies could not offer. And that always came back to Dr. Shaklee's philosophy. And we felt if we helped enough other people get what they want, we'd get what we wanted. And so, but specific efforts, we shared the opportunity a lot more after we made that decision to go full time. That is probably one deficiency that most Shaklee businesses have, to be honest. And looking back, I wish I had done it more.
Well, yeah, it's very true because in working with our teams, I know how we fall in love with our products, our philosophy. I want to hear a little bit more about what those core principles that you think are so important to you, but using your opportunity muscle, the value in today's world and what's happening when you look at the amount of new normal that we're dealing with. We have a greater opportunity than ever, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I believe that a lot of people cannot, specifically males in the business, cannot look past the fact that Shaklee deals in a volume of a lot of little numbers. But those little numbers, when accumulated, become big numbers. And they cannot see the passive income factor that is so unbelievable. I never used this word before until a couple of years ago, but we truly were building an asset. And what Pat saw in the picture is she fell in love with the fact that she could create something that truly she could put her signature on, and that would be our brand. And for me, I saw it as creating an asset that would pay us back many times over for the effort we were putting in at the time. And so
and I think I'm kind of an unusual woman in the business because I saw the business model and I saw that there's no glass ceiling and that I could multiply myself all over the country and help other people learn what they wanted, and I get remunerated.
That's
It's
right.
I saw the principle as being so joyful.
And that's a good word.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. So, what did you and Pat as a couple, you've built the business, and there are many of us that do it individually, but what we do team up with others to sort of offset what we need to do. What would you say your biggest skill is for what you like to do in Shaklee as a guy?
Wow, that's a question I'm not sure I was have ever been asked. I think as a couple, and this probably is true for us as individuals, that we're pretty good at the relationship part of the business. And Shaklee is not a product business. It's a people business. And we don't sell products. We educate people who consume products and people who see the vision that we have. So I would say one of our strengths is certainly connection, community. We are blessed with fantastic people. We have 16 first level leaders
Wow.
and they're from coast to coast. They're from Sonoma, California to Kingston, Massachusetts. So our group really is all over the place. But I absolutely can tell you that the loyalty factor in this business is spectacular. I can't imagine another business that could surpass it. So we've kind of tapped into that, not intentionally. I kind of think that's who we were. So that would be my answer.
And what was Pat a teacher of? What was her background in teaching?
Elementary, third, fourth grade, and a reading special, then became a reading specialist.
Well, you know, a lot of teachers do get involved with our business because we do educate people. So a lot of the people who build a successful Shaklee business are educators, and it is in building the relationships. What would you say your primary activities are these days? And tell a little bit about what a senior master coordinator is, because I haven't given any numbers. Give a little scope to people about what that means.
Well, a senior master must have 12 first level directors and must be creating at least 200,000 personal group or organizational volume on a monthly basis. And that's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
The income part of it, it's funny when we start talking about ranks in Shaklee and you hear titles, that doesn't mean much to most people.
Right.
We've never gotten terrifically hung up on that, but it does indicate kind of the health of your business for sure.
Mm-hmm. So it's a multi-million-dollar business that you've created that allows you the freedom and lifestyle that you're enjoying today. Because you were just saying you're going to take a 3-week road trip back to Colorado?
Probably closer to 4 weeks, yes. Uh-huh.
And
Yep.
so the business gives you and yet you still get the income coming in, whether you're
Yes.
there.
What we need, our two most valuable allies are the phone and the computer. And again, communication. That's a principle that you just can't ignore. At the director level, at the master level, you just need to communicate with your organization, because everybody we bring in, I guess it kind of goes back to my college admissions days. I worked for one small college where the director of admissions was not a very good people person, to be honest. Highly educated, but he didn't like to get out and talk to the students. But he sat behind at the campus, but he communicated via typically written, and he treated every incoming application like a precious gem. And he thought, everybody has value that comes into your business. Now, they might not stay with you forever, but while they're there, to me, they deserve the best service we can give them. So,
what would you say to new people today about how to get started, or how would you treat a new person that comes into your business today?
I don't really think it's changed that much. The first thing, we want them to fall in love with the product. We want them to use the product. I don't think I've ever seen any lasting Shaklee business where people didn't love the product. As someone once said, the bigger your business, the better the protein taste. You do have to fall in love with the product.
Mm-hmm.
But the second thing is we want them to simply make a list of names of people they want to contact, people they want on their team. And we don't put a number on that. We don't say you can't start till you have 50 or you cannot start till you have 100. Just Pat started with 7 names on her list in Colorado. And it was kind of funny. After the first 2 said no, she was down to 5. And she said, what should I do? And I said, well, I'm not sure what you did, but don't do that again. Just, we've got to do something different. So, but she did something that really, I think is valuable here in that question. She asked a couple of those people on her list, would you help me? And they said, sure, what can I do? Would you have an event where I could share the Shaklee skincare products? And the first two people said, sure. And out of those two events, we still have 3 first-level leaders today. And, you know, one lives in Arizona, one lives in Massachusetts, and so on. But you get the idea.
Wow, you are coast to coast.
Yeah, and so it's so we make a list of names, we get people to engage with an event, and personally, I think those pieces are more important than stepping right into training, because again, as a guy, just to paint a picture, the wife gets into the Shaklee business, tells the husband, this is what I'm going to do. He has big question marks whether this is wise or not. And okay, show me. So now she goes straight into training for 6 or 8 weeks. Nothing else, just training. How's your business going? Well, I'm in training. After a couple of months, you know, nothing's happened. The guy thinks, what kind of business is this? Contrast that with someone who jumps in and gets an event going, gets to 600 PGV the first month, gets to 1,000 the second month, and sees that progression of what's going to impress the guy, the income, and then the guy gets on board. And the guy usually gets on board when it's convenient to say, it's our business.
Well, that's the saying we have. When you're a director, it's her business. When you become a coordinator, it's our business. And when you get to be master, it's his business.
Yeah, you know, it's too close to the truth.
Well, what's wonderful is that when I agree, you know, to get the ball rolling. And as a matter of fact, we had an event last night with Presidential Master Carolyn, who did a take a look presentation, right, Lauren?
Good. Mm-hmm.
And it was, you know, going to people and say, would you help me? You know, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is come and listen, invite a few friends, and you can tell the story. And so getting that ball rolling, I know that's what we're doing. And even though I've been in Shaklee a number of years, I am new in the business. And I'm getting the ball rolling again, and it feels good and it's fun, and it's great to see all the beautiful people that come in, because we have hope and we have a choice that far exceeds a lot of the stuff that's out there today for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy you are. We are going to be doing more of the tips from the top. Do you have any parting words for anyone that might be looking at this, Don, that are wanting to be encouraged or helped a little?
When you asked me to be on the call, I thought, if I just jumped in, how would I want to hear this call if I were just a first-time listener? And I think what I would want to hear is, what would this guy do if he could put it on reverse and go back and start all over, knowing what I know now? What would I do more of? What would I do less of? What would I do differently? I think if people can take a segment of time and put maximum effort into that segment of time, that frame of time, it's unbelievable the magic you can create that will unfold as the years spin off of that. And I'm just going to give you one quick example. We had a meeting at our home, and I remember it was January 26th, and nobody came to the meeting. And we were so much in a fatigue factor because we'd really been hitting it hard. And we were kind of relieved nobody came. So half hour later, we're in the kitchen, and I looked over and said, Pat, we had 11 first level directors. I said, let's make a run for master. She said, oh, I'd love that. When? And I said, end of May. And which means we needed 4 new directors. We had 2 builders in the hopper, but we didn't know where those other 2 were going to come from. How are we going to find 2 more builders? And I said, I don't know, but let's share this opportunity 100 times in the next 60 days between the 2 of us. And I can tell you, we missed that mark. We did it 68 times. But out of that came 2 more builders, and we broke 4 directors by the end of May. And we've never been below 15 first levels since then. And our volume went up 5,000 PV in a month shortly. I mean, and people say, who did you talk to? And the answer was anybody, anyone and everyone. And we would tell people already in the group, we know we haven't shared this with you, but we just have this little goal. And so that massive action, short amount of time, I would do that again. As I mentioned earlier, I would share the opportunity more. Mm-hmm. I would be more intentional about our business at most times. I would also tell people, take time to relax and enjoy. It's not a race. Nobody's keeping score. No pressure. It's your business. It's not my business. Pick your own schedule. But I guess we've been fairly successful. I wouldn't change too much, but I guess I would change that as a man. I would change that factor of sharing the opportunity more. Because
really get behind it. What would you say to spouses that we might get to watch this who have wives that are working it and they haven't quite jumped on board with it yet?
Ooh, that really gets to it. I would say, don't be foolish. I don't feel as if, as a husband and wife, we've ever allowed our ego to get in the way and necessitate taking credit for building this business. Pat has her talents. I have my talents. We have our deficiencies, but we don't care within our whole organization who gets credit. It's not that kind of thing. But I would tell men, be careful that you don't take a really considered, critical thought look at this opportunity. It may look like a simple little business that you could get into for a little bit of nothing. But what business in America looks better than Shaklee right now in this environment? We're dealing with health. We're dealing with incredible community. We're dealing with longevity. We're dealing with stability. And our business has gotten better during this crazy
income. Yeah. Incomes are growing for us during this time. So that was the topic of last night, was in the 3 pressing issues that people are dealing with today: health, protecting our environment, and income. And we have all 3.
Exactly.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your time. My love to Pat.
Well, the same. We love your organization, and you have a terrific rest of 2020.
All right, we will. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.